Now, returning to our top story of the Indian stock markets opening and hitting new lifetime highs. Today, we have with us Dr. Sachin Chaturvedi, economist and Director General of the Research and Information Systems for Developing Countries, a New Delhi-based think tank, to talk a little bit more about the economy and the wider significance of what's happening. Dr. Chaturvedi, thanks for being with us. And now, investors in the Indian stock market, they seem to be very positive about India's future. How much of a barometer is this, do you think, to interpret what's happening in the Indian economy or India's economic strength, in a sense?
Thank you, Mark. Thanks a lot. I think it's a great pleasure to see how Indian economy is bouncing back, despite of several constraints that we see with many other economies at the global level. If you see, the credit goes to the macro economic fundamentals that we have focused in last 9 years that have given huge strength in terms of how economy is going forward, both in terms of continued fiscal prudence that we have exercised, continued focus on capex, both by center and by states. And you also find the recent Q2 growth, 7.6%, which has really surprised everyone with the push in manufacturing. And this is largely coming in again from the schemes that we have sort of brought in to focus on issues related to manufacturing. Some way, the growth model that we were tom-tomming for some time, that India has jumped in from agriculture to services sector, very soon we realized that it's not possible. And that's where Make in India came in, Atmanirbhar Bharat idea came in, and now we see that manufacturing is bouncing back. And this is so much evident in terms of what Finance Minister recently reported.
Yes.
To Lok Sabha on GST collections. It is there in the core sector growth. And also, Mark, I think a very close coordination between the Reserve Bank and Ministry of Finance on inflation-related issues. Both demand and supply, we have managed very well.
Now, John Chambers, the former CEO of Cisco Systems, he says that India is at a pivotal moment in its history and going to capture this moment and also going to drive growth and opportunity for years to come. So, I mean, we're talking now of India really in a takeoff, not only in a, probably already taken off, but, you know, in a pretty big stage here of growth.
Exactly, Mark. If you see what I said in terms of macroeconomic fundamentals, you would require technology, you would require manufacturing prowess, you would require a network which can move on, so connectivity. And these are precisely what PM Gati Shakti, what Make in India, what port-led economic development, Sagarmala. So now you are realizing facets of all these various initiatives that came in, including digital payment architecture. Now, this is something which everybody is realizing in terms of how much India has coped up that countries may take years to accomplish. And what one of the very famous economists at one point said after our 1991 reforms, Lance Taylor, in terms of how we sequence our economic reforms is important. Right. And this is what precisely we have done. In terms of how do you sequence, you require Skill India, you require Startup India, you require connectivity to come in. And that's where, Mark, the large sum of youth engagement, that's where the large manufacturing, you are finding right. More and more companies coming in partnership with India.
Indeed, and we've seen, you know, also supporting what you're saying, foreign funds have invested over about 16,000 crores in this month itself. One probably sees that they are going to stay invested for the medium to long term. But, you know, this also comes because of the heavy capex spending that has happened over the last 2 years. But some of the agencies like S&P and Barclays, they are suggesting that manufacturing growth should be the key. To what extent has India worked on manufacturing?
See, we require capital expenditure push all through for our own business to invest, but also for investment to come in. until unless you are able to reduce logistic costs, until unless you are able to provide last mile connectivity for the units, manufacturing units to the port or wherever the nearest distribution hubs are, you won't make any progress. And that's where India had to focus. If you recall, 2016, there was a Asian Development Bank study that was very widely quoted in terms of how India was losing out competitiveness despite of being a low-cost producer in many areas because of logistic costs. And now, with several very focused attempts, even central government has incentivized states that are abiding by the policies that are being introduced for the fiscal share that they would get. Now more and more states are coming up. The 6 top states now have to create space for others. And this mark is so much visible from 1970 onwards. If you see the data, top 6 states in India had 80% in the total credit creation. Yes. Now that has gone down to 67%. Other states have come in. Same goes to the deposit share. So you find that it is now becoming more and more equitable. The direct benefit transfers have also eased life for many people. So as we are focusing on business development, the equal attention on making the growth process more inclusive, more participative, I think is paying the dividends. And as a result, you have peace and the necessary conditions for economic growth. And Absolutely. This is, I think, largely the crux of the current rebounds that we are seeing in our economy.
And also manufacturing grew by over 13%, construction by over 13% in the last figures that came in. But you know, analysts we are looking at the markets today, and analysts are saying that the Sensex can now hit 1 lakh. That's what we should be looking at next. So, I mean, you know, given the GDP is likely to cross $7 trillion by 2030, this could happen in the natural course. But if you were a man who has to predict when it's going to happen, when will it be?
I think it should be very soon. Predictions are not that easy to make. Of course, those who are pessimistic would make never. But I think that's not the case. We have to be optimistic, and it should happen very soon.
Okay, we leave it there. Thank you very much, Dr. Sachin Chaturvedi, eminent economist and Director General of the Research and Information Systems for Developing Countries. Thanks for being with us.